Act as if you have it all. Tonight, I ask you to consider a simple yet life-changing idea. What if the life you desire is not something you must chase, but something you must claim within yourself? What if the distance between where you are and where you want to be is not measured by time, money, education, luck, or circumstances, but by the state of consciousness you occupy every day? Most people live as though their dreams are somewhere in the future. They believe happiness will arrive when they get the promotion, when they find the right relationship, when the money appears, when the opportunity comes, or when circumstances finally improve. Because they believe fulfillment belongs to tomorrow, they continue feeling incomplete today. They continue thinking from lack, speaking from lack, and acting from lack. Then they wonder why life continues to reflect the same limitations back to them. The secret is that life does not respond to what you wish for. Life responds to what you believe yourself to be. The world around you is constantly reflecting your dominant assumptions, your deepest convictions, and the identity you accept as true. Therefore, if you wish to experience abundance, love, success, health, confidence, or freedom, you must first become inwardly familiar with the feeling of already possessing these qualities. To act as if you have it all does not mean pretending in front of others. It does not mean boasting, showing off, or denying present facts. It means inwardly accepting the reality of your fulfilled desire so completely that your thoughts, emotions, and reactions begin to align with the version of yourself who already possesses everything you seek. Imagine for a moment that every dream you have ever carried has already been fulfilled. Imagine that the financial security you desire is already yours. Imagine that the relationship you long for already exists. Imagine that your body is healthy, your mind is peaceful, and your future is secure. How would you feel? How would you walk? How would you speak? What would occupy your thoughts? What fears would disappear? What worries would no longer have power over you? Notice that the version of you who already has it all does not spend every day worrying about whether it will happen. That person is not desperately searching for signs. That person is not begging life for permission to receive. The fulfilled version of you moves through the world with quiet confidence because the desired reality is already accepted internally. This is why your inner state is so important. Every day you are planting seeds in the garden of consciousness. Every thought carries a feeling, and every feeling impresses itself upon the deeper levels of your mind. When a thought is repeated with conviction and emotion, it begins to shape your perception of reality. Eventually, the world rearranges itself to mirror the assumptions you consistently hold. Many people spend years imagining failure, disappointment, rejection, and struggle. They rehearse worst-case scenarios repeatedly without realizing they are strengthening those states within themselves. Then they become surprised when life reflects the very conditions they have mentally occupied. The mind does not distinguish between a fear repeatedly entertained and a desire repeatedly embraced. It simply accepts what is consistently impressed upon it. Therefore, if you wish to change your life, begin by changing the state from which you think. Stop asking, "How can I get it?" and start asking, "How would I feel if it were already mine?" This question shifts your attention from the absence of your desire to the presence of its fulfillment. The person who acts as if they have it all understands that true wealth begins with a wealthy consciousness. True love begins with a loving self-concept. True success begins with the assumption of being successful. Every external achievement is first experienced internally as a state of being. When you wake up in the morning, do not immediately step into the identity of the person who lacks. Instead, enter the day as the person who has already received. Think from the end rather than toward it. Let your imagination become the doorway through which you experience the reality you desire before physical evidence appears. You may ask, "How can I feel successful when I have not yet seen success? How can I feel abundant when money has not arrived? How can I feel loved when I am alone?" The answer is that every visible reality begins as an invisible assumption. If you wait for external proof before changing your state, you will remain trapped in the same cycle. Transformation occurs when you dare to embody the feeling first. The individual who acts as if they have it all is not ignoring reality. They are creating a new reality. They understand that the outer world is often delayed evidence of previous assumptions. Instead of reacting to appearances, they remain loyal to the inner vision. They continue thinking, feeling, and identifying with the fulfilled version of themselves until that state becomes natural. And when it becomes natural, something remarkable happens. Opportunities appear where none existed before. Ideas arrive unexpectedly. Relationships improve. Circumstances shift. Doors open. What once seemed impossible begins to feel inevitable. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because the individual changed first. The greatest transformation you can make is not acquiring more possessions, more status, or more approval. It is becoming the person who no longer feels incomplete without them. The moment you stop feeling empty, you stop chasing. The moment you stop chasing, you begin attracting. The moment you accept that you already possess the essence of what you seek within yourself, life begins reflecting that truth in ways you could never have predicted. So tonight, I invite you to leave behind the identity of the seeker and step into the identity of the possessor. Walk in the feeling of fulfillment. Think from the reality you desire. Assume the state of already being the person you wish to become. Act as if you have it all, and in time, the world will have no choice but to mirror the state you faithfully occupy. Many people spend their entire lives waiting for the perfect moment to feel successful, loved, secure, or fulfilled. They believe that once the promotion arrives, once the relationship appears, once the money accumulates, or once circumstances improve, they will finally allow themselves to experience happiness and confidence. Yet this way of living keeps fulfillment forever in the future. The mind becomes conditioned to believe that satisfaction is always one step away, always dependent upon some external event. As long as this pattern continues, the feeling of lack remains active, and life continues reflecting that same state. The great change begins when you reverse this process and decide to assume the feeling of your wish already fulfilled. Instead of waiting for life to provide evidence before you feel successful, you begin feeling successful now. Instead of waiting to be loved before feeling worthy, you begin feeling worthy now. Instead of waiting for abundance before feeling secure, you begin feeling secure now. This inner shift may seem simple, yet it possesses extraordinary power because it changes the foundation from which you think, feel, and act. Every desire contains a hidden message. Beneath every goal is a feeling you hope to experience. A person who desires wealth often seeks the feeling of freedom, security, and possibility. A person who desires a loving relationship seeks the feeling of companionship, acceptance, and affection. A person who desires recognition seeks the feeling of significance and accomplishment. If you look deeply enough, you will discover that what you truly want is not the object itself, but the emotional experience associated with possessing it. This realization changes everything because it means the feeling is available before the physical manifestation arrives. The feeling does not have to wait. It can be cultivated now. Imagine someone who dreams of living in abundance. Every day they check their bank account and become discouraged because the numbers do not match their desires. They constantly think about what they cannot afford, what they are missing, and how difficult their situation appears. Although they may speak words of hope occasionally, their dominant emotional state remains one of scarcity. That emotional state influences their decisions, expectations, and reactions. They unknowingly carry the identity of someone who lacks. As long as that identity remains active, their experience continues to reflect it. Now imagine that same person deciding to think differently. They begin appreciating what they already possess. They start imagining the relief and gratitude they would feel if financial freedom were already theirs. They walk with greater confidence. They make decisions from a place of possibility rather than fear. Their circumstances may not change immediately, but their inner state begins changing. That new state becomes the seed from which a different reality grows. The mind responds strongly to repeated emotional experiences. Whatever feeling you consistently occupy gradually becomes familiar and natural. If worry is repeated daily, the mind becomes accustomed to worry. If confidence is repeated daily, confidence becomes natural. The same principle applies to every area of life. When you repeatedly enter the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are training yourself to accept a new identity. You are teaching your mind that fulfillment is not distant, but present. Over time, this assumption begins influencing your behavior in subtle yet significant ways. Most people underestimate the power of imagination. They treat imagination as fantasy rather than recognizing it as the workshop in which future experiences are formed. Every achievement, invention, relationship, and accomplishment begins as an idea held within consciousness. Before something becomes visible, it exists invisibly as a mental and emotional reality. The individual who understands this principle uses imagination deliberately. Instead of imagining failure, they imagine success. Instead of rehearsing disappointment, they rehearse fulfillment. Instead of dwelling upon obstacles, they dwell upon outcomes already achieved. By doing so, they become emotionally acquainted with the reality they desire. The feeling of fulfillment creates a sense of certainty that cannot be produced through force. It is not a frantic attempt to convince yourself of something. It is a quiet acceptance that what you seek is already yours in consciousness. There is a calmness in this state because the struggle to obtain has been replaced by the confidence of possession. Consider how differently you think about something you already own compared to something you desperately want. When you already possess something valuable, you do not spend every moment wondering whether it will arrive. You feel relaxed because ownership has been accepted. The same emotional quality can be applied inwardly to your desires. By assuming ownership in consciousness, you remove the emotional tension created by constant longing. This does not mean ignoring practical action or denying present circumstances. Rather, it means refusing to allow present conditions to define your identity. Circumstances are temporary expressions of previous states of consciousness. They do not have the authority to determine who you are becoming. When you assume the feeling of fulfillment, you are choosing a new state despite appearances. You are declaring that your inner reality carries greater creative power than temporary external conditions. There will be moments when doubt attempts to return. Old habits of thinking may reappear. You may find yourself questioning whether your efforts are producing results. During such moments, remember that every new identity requires persistence before it becomes natural. A seed does not emerge from the soil the moment it is planted, yet the process has already begun. Likewise, when you repeatedly enter the feeling of fulfillment, changes are occurring within consciousness, even if they are not immediately visible. The person who masters this principle understands that their emotional state is not something to be dictated by circumstances. Instead, it becomes something they choose intentionally. They no longer wait for the world to give them permission to feel successful, loved, confident, or abundant. They generate those feelings from within and allow life to reflect them outwardly. Their happiness is no longer postponed until some future event occurs. It becomes a present experience. As this practice continues, the line between imagination and reality begins to narrow. The desired state feels increasingly familiar. Confidence replaces uncertainty. Gratitude replaces frustration. Expectation replaces fear. The individual gradually becomes the person they once hoped to become. What seemed impossible begins to feel natural. What seemed distant begins to feel close. The fulfillment that once existed only as a dream becomes accepted as an inner fact. When you consistently assume the feeling of your wish already fulfilled, you stop living from the consciousness of lack and begin living from the consciousness of possession. That change in consciousness affects every aspect of your experience. Your conversations change, your reactions change, your decisions change, your expectations change. And because life continually mirrors the state you occupy, your external world begins reflecting the transformation that first occurred within. The journey toward any desire truly begins the moment you stop waiting for fulfillment and start experiencing it now. As we conclude, remember this simple truth. The life you desire begins within you long before it appears around you. The moment you stop identifying with lack and start identifying with fulfillment, you activate a powerful transformation. You do not have to wait for the world to change before you change. You do not have to wait for success before feeling successful, for abundance before feeling abundant, or for love before feeling loved. The feeling comes first, and the visible results follow. Every day presents a choice. You can continue living from the awareness of what is missing, or you can step into the consciousness of already being the person you wish to become. One path keeps your desires in the future. The other brings them into the present moment as a living reality within your imagination and feeling. The state you consistently occupy determines the experiences you eventually encounter. Walk away from this moment with a new understanding of yourself. Carry yourself as someone who is already blessed. Think from fulfillment rather than toward it. Let gratitude replace worry, confidence replace doubt, and expectation replace fear. Refuse to let temporary appearances define your future. Remain faithful to the vision you have accepted within yourself. When you act as if you have it all, you are not pretending. You are choosing a new identity. You are claiming a new state of consciousness. And as that state becomes natural, life begins reflecting it in remarkable ways. The opportunities, relationships, resources, and experiences you seek are drawn to the person you become. So leave here tonight with the feeling that your desire is already accomplished. Walk in that assumption, persist in that conviction, live from that reality, and watch as the world gradually reshapes itself to mirror the greatness, abundance, and fulfillment you first accepted within your own consciousness.